Ask any New York Mets fan, and they will tell you it's not the easiest team to root for. While their crosstown rivals get all the fame and glory, the Mets have more embarrassing moments than proud ones. Whether it was former Mets pitcher Brett Saberhagen spraying bleach at reporters, or Mr. Met giving the finger to fans, there's no shortage of reasons for Mets fans to put a bag over their heads. And then there's Bobby Bonilla. Despite not playing for the Mets since 1999 and being out of Major League Baseball since 2001, Bonilla is still getting paid annually by the Mets. So how the hell did that happen? To answer those questions, we have to go back in time a bit, all the way back to 1992. At the time, Bonilla was a star power hitter for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was coming off of his fourth straight All-Star season in 1991, where he led the NL in doubles with 44, had 100 RBIs, and came third in NL MVP voting. Yes, he was considered to be even better than his Pirates teammate Barry Bonds. That offseason, he was entering free agency. A New York City native, Bonilla signed a 5-year, $29 million contract with the Mets, making him the highest paid player in the National League. Things did not go well. Bonilla's production slipped, and despite making 2 more All-Star Game appearances, the fans and the media continuously clashed with their star player. In late July of 1995, just 2 weeks after representing the team at the All-Star Game, the Mets shipped Bonilla off to Baltimore in exchange for Damon Buford and Alex Ochoa, neither of whom really made an impact with the team. Unfortunately for Mets fans, this is actually where the story really begins, not ends. Bonilla would help the Orioles get to the ALCS in 1996, and then he would go on to win a World Series with the Marlins in 1997. In 1998, Bonilla ended up getting traded to the Dodgers, where he put up some pretty putrid numbers, only batting .237 in 72 games. But despite his diminishing numbers, after the 98 season, the Mets front office decided to give Bonilla another shot, trading him for relief pitcher Mel Rojas. Sure, the first time around was an abject disaster, but surely it couldn't get worse than that, right? Wrong. Bonilla was straight up bad in the 1999 season. In his 60 games, his batting average was a dismal 160, only hitting 4 home runs and 18 RBIs. Mid-season, Bonilla was replaced in the lineup by Roger Cedeno, and Bobby did not take it well. He openly clashed with manager Bobby Valentine in the dugout, even refusing to enter the game to pinch hit on one occasion. It all culminated with Bonilla and his teammate Ricky Henderson getting caught playing cards in the clubhouse during a playoff game. Bonilla was obviously not the veteran presence the organization was hoping for, and they decided to release him in the offseason. But the Mets still owed Bonilla $5.9 million. Not an exorbitant amount, but not chump change either. So Bonilla's agent Dennis Gilbert came to the Mets with a proposal. What if they deferred the payment for a decade, allowing the Mets to keep the $5.9 million in the short term? After all, they were chasing a World Series at the time, and they could pay up in installments starting in 2011. In exchange for deferring the payments, the deal would take on an 8% interest rate to keep up with inflation. So instead of paying him $5.9 million, Bonilla would get paid a total of $29.8 million. Broken down in yearly installments from 2011 to 2035, every July 1st, Bonilla would receive a check for $1.19 million, or to be more exact, $1,193,248.20. But besides getting to keep the cash short term, why would the Mets accept this deal? This is where the story goes from bad to embarrassing. At the time of the deal, the Mets were owned by the Wilpon family, and Fred Wilpon had heavily invested his assets with his good friend, Bernie Madoff. The two had been close for years, and their sons had actually gone to high school together. Madoff was promising Wilpon 10 to 15% annual returns on all of his investments, which was reportedly in the hundreds of millions of dollars. If you're not an investor, just know that those are very good numbers. So Wilpon's thinking was this: if I'm making 10 to 15% returns on my investments, an 8% interest rate on $5.9 million is easily affordable. Bonilla gets his money, the Mets can afford it, everybody wins. The problem was this: Bernie Madoff's return promises were too good to be true. In 2008, Madoff was arrested for running the biggest Ponzi scheme in American history, worth $64.8 billion. Wilpon and the Mets lost hundreds of millions themselves, and they hadn't even paid 1 cent still owed to Bonilla. July 1st has unofficially become known as Bobby Bonilla Day, the annual day that the Mets pay their former disgruntled star $1.19 million. And to be fair to the Mets, they're not the only team to ever defer payments to outgoing players. The Reds are still paying Ken Griffey Jr. through 2024. The Celtics are paying Kevin Garnett through 2024 as well. Hell, the New York Islanders are paying former goalie Rick DiPietro through 2029. But because the Mets are the Mets, and Bonilla was such a clusterfuck, Bobby Bonilla Day will be a day of embarrassment for all Mets fans. At least until the year 2035. Thanks for watching this episode. If the name Bobby Bonilla triggers you as much as it does for Mets fans, hit that like button and comment below how the hell I can improve this show. Because God only knows I'm not going to last too long.